Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And today will be all things Rushka, Stu Crane, and Angelina Jolie. Now, why are we going to be talking about Angelina Jolie? Well, she appears in I, Pet, Goat 2. And we found many more connections to her in her life that connect to I, Pet, Goat 2. Her interest in Stu Crane in Russia, her personal interest in voodoo, as well as her French-Canadian Creole ancestry. We're even going to break down her diamond ring, which also appears in I, Pet, Goat 2. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, understand that I, Pet, Goat 2 is a 7-minute animation that came out in 2012. And in this animation, it seems to recap the next 10 years after it published, duplicating world historical events that have happened since, and we've been decoding it over the last decade. Now, I'm going to show you some clips from My Pet Goat 2, and then we're going to break them down. Let me pull this up here and make sure you guys are with me first. Are we live, you guys? Make sure we're live. And we'll get going on this. See if Tom says we're live. Give me an amen if we're live, you guys, and we'll keep going with this. Now, I'm going to have this in slow motion so that you guys can see this. I'll have the sound off. But understand there's a soundtrack going on in the background. And that's what you're not going to hear. Okay, so Just Thinking says we are live. Okay, good. Thanks. Thanks, Malin. All right, let's take a look at this. Now, first thing we are going to see here is the Hagia Sophia Mosque mural image that is supposed to be Mary and Jesus. Now, we had discovered this last year. That this image here, this mosque image from the Hagia Sophia Mosque in Turkey with Mother Mary in a seashell with baby Jesus in her lap with the red halo is the same as this image. And this definitively tied this image in I, Pet, Goat 2 to the mosque. Well, the mosque, the Hagia Sophia Mosque, used to be an Orthodox church up until last year. The Christians there then sent a plea letter to Thump when he was president, asking him to reverse this church being turned into a mosque. Of course, he did not respond. But that plea came days after we had discovered this image and matched it up with the mosque. So, as you can see here, she's sitting in a seashell on the banks of a body of water that you can see down here. Let's zoom this up so you guys can see this. And looking behind her, we see what could be Stu Crane. Now, why do I say that? Well, there's a nuke going off here. And the latest accusation by Rushka is that they're creating a dirty bomb. Now, this could be 1 in a million places back here, couldn't it? With this bomb going off back here. But what I'm going to show you next in I, Pet, Goat 2 seems to seal the deal that this is the image that we're looking at here. And that this is possibly Stu Crane. Here's the map. Here's Istanbul, where the mosque is, the Hagia Sophia Mosque. There's the body of water, the Black Sea. And there's Stu Crane. So it's possible that what we're looking at here is like a map. Istanbul, the Black Sea, body of water, it's black. And then back here being Stu Crane across the other side. Now, I don't know this to be true. We're just trying to put the puzzle pieces together, aren't we? Now, let's keep watching. As we fast forward to this part of Petcoat. And here you see a tattoo-backed Jolie in the grips of Baron Samedi, the voodoo god of good and evil. There's the tattoo on the back of this girl, and according to this is the tattoo that also matches what's on Angelina Jolie's back. We covered that in a previous show, so I'm not going to show you again. But basically, she has almost this exact tattoo on her back. Now, Heliofant, the makers of this animation, they say that this girl is Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War, right? Let's play a little bit of this through so you can see this. And we know that Jolie describes herself as a humanitarian, which is the opposite of war, right? But here's the problem. As a U.S. citizen who's visited over 30 war-torn lands, she seems to have zero influence in making her own country stop bombing the very countries that she's claiming to help. For instance, as we speak right now, she's in Yemen. And we know that the U.S. is involved in putting forth money and drones in Yemen. This is a simple search. U.S. Yemen airstrikes. U.S. made weapon used in airstrike that killed scores. And on and on and on. For those who want to know the truth. So this humanitarian leaves that part out of the equation. She does not condemn the U.S. for creating all this destruction and funding it. But she just goes there as a humanitarian and helps the refugees. So as you could see, this is all starting to come together, isn't it? Sun Tzu, according to the makers. Now understand that the makers of iPetCode 2, they identify all the characters on their website, but really the characters are just clues to deeper truths about the characters. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. So here you have Baron Samedi and Angelina Jolie standing in front of invading tanks. That are rolling in line with the symbol that represents China. The yin and yang. Which seems to be happening right now in Ukraine. And it begs the question, is China secretly backing Russia on a much larger scale than what we see in the media and what they're admitting to? Is this a secret art of war alliance? Now, many of you noticed that the front of these tanks, if you turn it sideways, appears to have a bunch of Z's on it, the letter Z. Let's watch. Now, what could that mean? Here's an image of it here. I guess that could be a Z there. Though I didn't discover that. One of you guys did, or you might have gotten that from another channel that's looking at this as well. But there are these, if you turn this sideways, they're like Z's on there, aren't they? Well, as we know, the Russian tanks have painted a giant Z on the front. Now this could stand for Zolonsky. I'm saying his name differently so we don't get in trouble here. Or it could mean something else. But the fact of the matter is that if you have spiritual eyes to see, that the Z could also be appearing on the front of these tanks in this 2012 animation, which is just really weird. It's like they knew. Now, let's keep watching here. She's waving the white flag, pretending to be a humanitarian peacemaker, but yet all this time going to all these war-torn countries, that many of which the U.S. has caused this or been in the middle of it, and failing to condemn the countries doing it. Now let's keep watching here as these tanks roll in. So I fully believe that what's being represented here are Russian tanks rolling in to the Stu crane. Now, why am I so confident this is the Stu crane? Well, we'll get into that in just a second. But let's look at this ring. Baron Samedi is wearing this diamond ring, isn't he? Look on his finger there as it flashes. Well, let's get a good still shot of that, because I believe we've identified this ring. There's a good images of it right there. I believe this ring is Angelina Jolie's ring, as you can see right here. This is from Taylor Hart. They have her ring on display here, and then if you look down here, they have other rings that you can buy that are like her ring. And I guess this is what people do. They pick a favorite celebrity and then they buy a ring that looks like theirs that costs much less. But here's what I want you to focus on here. The starbursts. Now, many people believe these look like spike proteins. I believe that that could be the case, as well as pom-poms, which is what are the group of hydras all in a string together. The only intracellular hydra that can infect the eggs of sturgeon. They clump together in these what are called pom-poms. Let's go back, because behind Baron Samedi are the pom-poms, the fireworks, the spike proteins. Unbelievable. Now, you've got what appears to be a nuclear winter. Now, there's been much debate over the years about, what this is. Is this snow, ice, nuclear winter? I think it's a little bit of everything. Baron Samedi. Now, let's rewind this a bit, because what you're going to notice here as well is that everything is happening inside the carcass of an animal. And of course, Baron Samedi is a skeleton carcass with ribs. So you've got a nested reality here, don't you? You've got a rib cage within a rib cage. But what's more important about this carcass observation is something just very chilling. The word carcass is a parliamentary term right out of the Stu crane. There it is, right here. The Verkhova Rada of Ukraine, Stu crane, is the unicameral parliament of the Stu crane. And if you go down here, they talk about what a carcass is. Since the imperative mandate provisions of the Stukranian Constitution came into effect in February 2014, a political party can withdraw a parliamentary mandate if one of their MPs leaves its parliamentary faction. So when an MP leaves its faction, they call these people a derogatory name. They're basically like traitors. They're called tushkis, which is a derogatory name meaning carcass. So now we have a direct match in this 2012 animated film. How can this be? Well, we'll get into that later in the show. But first, we're going to talk about other voodoo connections, because Angelina Jolie's mother was French Canadian. Creole, here she is here, Marceline Bertrand. And though we don't have any proof that her mother was into voodoo, we do know that Angelina Jolie is into voodoo. Various academic sources describe Louisiana voodoo as a religion, as do some practitioners. More specifically, it has been characterized as an African, Creole, and African American religion. Louisiana voodoo has also been referred to as New Orleans voodoo. And in older texts, voodooism. The scholar Ina Fandrich described it as the Afro-Creole counterculture religion of southern Louisiana. So this is definitely a Creole-based religion, as well as Haiti and West Africa. But it migrated here to the south. Let's read about AnJolie's voodoo belief system. I had it pulled up here. Oh, here we go. This is out of the Daily Mail. This was back in 2017. And here, this lady calls her a white witch and says that she was using voodoo to try to woo back ex-husband Brad Pitt. She's making a foolish mistake. White Witch warns Angelina Jolie against using spells and tattoo binding to woo back Brad as she reveals a magic ritual for the lovelorn to find happiness. So she used her tattoo, which is what we're all talking about. The giant tiger on her back. Let's read this article here. Back in September, Star Magazine reported that Angelina was turning to bizarre spiritual rituals in an effort to fix her life and get Brad back. But Carrie Kilpatrick, 51, says she knew that what the actress was doing was very wrong. When you use spells to try and win someone back, you have to be very careful what you wish for. Brad and Angelina split up for a reason. So if she succeeds in getting him back, she may end up unhappy. She's making a foolish mistake if she thinks she can manipulate him back into her life using magic. In here, she mentions voodoo. Angelina is known to have a strong interest in the occult, especially voodoo and hoodoo. What else seems to overlap with this I Pet Goat singing? Well, Jolie has had specific interest in Rushka, all the way beginning back in 2004, when as UN ambassador, she made her way to Moscow to talk to refugees. This is her right here. Jolie releases online journal on mission to Russian Federation. Now, the plot thickens here, you guys, because we're going to get into, at the last part of the show, a movie in which she appeared as a Russian double agent. She's also been possibly used as a honey trap to lure African warlords out of their dens. This is all public information, you guys. So here she is in Moscow. This was back in 2004. Let's keep looking here because there's even more. In 2014, here's another article here. Voices of Stu Crane. Jolie and Pitt worry and pray for Stu Crane. Let's read this one. Angelina Jolie says she and Brad Pitt pray for Stu Crane and hope for its unity in an exclusive interview for TSN UA in London. I was so worried. We both in the family are worried, and we pray that in Stu Crane there is order and that you are united. On the video, Stu Cranian journalist Natalka Piznia says to Jolie that she was told she is only allowed to speak about the movie premiere. And Jolie says, well, they may have asked you, but no one asked me that. You know, I am with you. I worry and I pray. The journalist then gives her a t-shirt from Maidan, saying she knows how Jolie likes t-shirts and hats. that Maidan is the center of everything going on right now in terms of the justification that Rushka has given to go in. Now, I wish I had this video pulled up. Let's see, maybe it's in the full story here. Let's see if this comes up here. I want to see if we can find this video while I'm with you guys here. Look at this. The center of everything going on right now, you guys. Wow. I don't see the video here. But anyway, let's see. Maybe it's on YouTube. Maybe we'll look at that at the end of the show. But there is a long string of interaction with Rushka, the Stu Crane. Let's keep looking here. There's another one here. This one was this was just 5 days ago, 2022. And basically, again, this is the same rhetoric that she cares about the refugees. And that's a good thing, right? I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing. But where is the condemnation both ways, right? Now, what's going on here? Well, I don't know. But the obsession with this part of the world does not end there. Because she's also working on, or bought the rights to, a new film about Empress Catherine the Great of Russia. Jolie to rule over a film of Catherine the Great. Now, this film has not started filming yet. It's just in talks. I think they bought the rights, is what it's saying here. Planning to make the biopic about Catherine the Great, the celebrated empress who ruled Russia for most of the second half of the 18th century. So this is dated 2015. I don't think they've done anything with this yet because I don't think there's a movie yet about this. But interesting nonetheless. And here is one of the final clues. Here's another one talking about her making this Catherine the Great movie and Bride of Frankenstein. This is 2017. So this is like an update. Here's one of the final clues. I love speaking Russian, she says here. And one of you told me in the comments that Jolie's father appears in this movie called The Odessa File. Here it is right here. Her father stars in this, John Voight. So I looked into this because I wanted to know what this was about. You guys, the entire storyline of why Russia is saying that they're going into the Stu Crane is all about Yahtzees, which is the plot line of the Odessa File movie. What is the Odessa File movie? Well, it's a movie about Yahtzee post-World War II escape plan. And it was called the Odessa File. This was how they got out into South America. It was through the Odessa File. That was the Yahtzee code name. And this film came out in 1974. And I've got clips of this film for you right now. I hope you're sitting down for this. So, do you see all the elements coming together? The Yahtzees, the Angelina Jolie, iPad Goat 2. Let's watch this here. Look at the date. 9/23. Again, this movie's about a plan hatched by the Yahtzees to eliminate Gizrael by attaching pathogens to bombs.
If it succeeds, it would be the end of Israel. The rockets will have special warheads. They will contain bubonic plague and strontium-90. It would be the end of Israel. The rockets will have special warheads. They will contain bubonic plague and strontium-90. All they are waiting for is completion of a teleguidance system without which they can't target the rockets.
Now, again, this film, even though it's called the Odessa Files, which is a city in the Ukraine, for those that don't know, it's a port city in the Ukraine, even though it has nothing to do with Ukraine, it really has everything to do with it, doesn't it? This Yahtzee connection. But again, Odessa File was simply a code word for how to escape germs of the mini after WW2. It says here, this film is based on carefully documented research. There really was a secret society called Odessa, linking former members of Mittler and his murderous SS, among them Rajman, the butcher of Riga camp. Gotta be careful. Can't talk about that subject here on YouTube anymore. Now, I think that's the end of this. Look at the tanks. iPad Go 2. Tanks rolling in, right? Are you seeing the threads of reality all stringing together? This is just bizarre. Now, finally, Jolie plays a Russian double agent in the 2010 film called Salt. I've got clips of that pulled up for you. Look at this.
I've been a NATO liaison to the White House for 3 years. Colonel Edvard Tomasz. Too proud. I've been a NATO liaison to the White House for 3 years. Colonel Edvard Tomasz.
Now, in this film, I'll give you a quick plot rundown of this. Russia hatches a plan to launch nukes from America to the Middle East to start a holy war against the U.S. And their plan is to basically, Russia's plan is to pretend to threaten the U.S. with nukes and then use these special agents to infiltrate the NATO war room so that they can launch the nukes from the U.S., making it look like the U.S. attacked the Middle East. Is all this starting to sound familiar? Is all this starting to sound familiar? Now, you're going to hear several NATO references. You just heard one NATO reference here with the opening montage right here. There's NATO on the license plate, 195. So they're going to a NATO meeting right now. And this is where Salt, which is played by Jolie, is able to infiltrate the NATO meeting and go down into the nuke room when they feel as though they're threatened by Russia. Watch.
Next step through.
And of course, some of you are going to love this because we just talked about this. This is Jolie dressed as a man.
Patience is key. I've been coming here for 2 years. Others have been here even longer.
You have exactly 2 minutes to preview NATO's point of view before the main meeting.
Well, Ted, you're a Russian CIA agent, Saul.
So they basically, this guy basically makes an attempt on the president. He's a double agent. They all go down into the nuke room. They feel as though, you know, Russia's going to make a move, but then Salt gets in. It's probably really loud. Hold on, let me turn this down a little bit. Sorry, guys. Blasting your poor eardrums out. So there she is. She pulls off her man mask. This is just crazy.
So, I think I saw her in the corridor. The other NATO officer. She's here.
Check. Evelyn Saul. Repeat, Evelyn Saul on premises. Maybe dressed as a NATO officer.
Selective attack options. Ready.
So they arm, so that guy is a Russian agent too. That's the guy that plays the Manchurian candidate from that film. You'll remember him. And so who's the Manchurian Candidate character? Well, that's got to be Bo Jiven, doesn't it? He's an empty suit of Bo Mama. That's what he is. He's Bo Mama 2.0. And so here you have him arming the nukes against the Mid-East, making it look like it came from America.
Selected attack targets acquired. Tehran. Mecca.
Are live pictures of Russian President Medvedev arriving at the airport outside of Moscow. The man we thought was dead has made a resurrection.
So he realized he's been double crossed because he and Salt are supposed to be on the same team, but she was supposed to have taken out the Russian president who was there for a funeral, but she missed, and she missed on purpose. He just has a head wound and then recovers. He literally gets grazed on the cheek and then recovers like the Antichrist, right? And then he realizes it, and she tries to stop Manchurian Candidate.
According to his doctors, President Medvedev's mistaken death is attributed to a temporary paralysis from a toxin derived from spider venom. This is astonishing.
She used actually a spider bite, that was the head wound, who bit him on the cheek and put him into a paralysis. There's your nerve aspect, your neurological aspect, which is everything that's been happening with the two fangs of the spider, which is the smack scene. It's all there, you guys. Every single element of the future was put together in the past in these films. So that was it. So she ends up breaking in. She stops him from creating basically World War III. And that's the end of the film. Let me go back into the chat here and see what you guys are up to. So it appears as though they knew, doesn't it? All the way back in 2012 when iPad Go 2 came out, they knew what the world plan was going to be. It was all scripted. And how did they know it? Because the controllers knew the end game from the beginning. And they thought that we were too dumb to figure it out. Yet what I just showed you was almost an exact overlay of the timeline of events from a film, an animated film. Yes, her name was Evelyn Shannon. Thank you. So Salt plays Evelyn in the in this film. In the film Salt. Now, there's a clone aspect to it as well, because she is basically a super soldier that was groomed in Russia, and they were like clones and things. And so it was crazy, you guys. It was crazy. So I watched that and put all that together for you guys. Let's go into the chat here and see what you guys are up to. See if you guys have any questions about this or anything that I missed. Faith says the 2012 London Olympics too. Absolutely. Evelyn is Eve. Yes, Judith. So, what are the implications of that? D to the N to the A, right? Bloodlines. Rebirth of the world in a new image. And she was the one that had the spider. Evelyn had the spider and bit the president with it, the Russian president, which caused him to be paralyzed. So, all right. So what are the implications here? Well, a nuke, obviously, but it's only one. They don't show worldwide destruction. So expect that one might go off somewhere, probably in the stew crane somewhere. I don't know. But that's what they seem to show. Yeah, she had the nuke sign on her face and heart, says Mike Harris. Yes, the Jolie character in iPad Go 2 had a nuke sign on her face. Now there's deeper aspects of decoding her as well. What she's wearing, the eye makeup, there's port wine stains, which could be a reference to Gorbachev and other things that people had noticed. But I didn't want to dig too deep into this decode. I wanted to do just an overall basic 30,000 foot view of the decode to put the pieces together succinctly so that you guys could see the whole thing from beginning to end. All right. Now, I need to give you guys an update on the Hydra thing. And the sister that sent me the images of the slides let me know that those did not come out of her blood. And so we're on standby as she tries to confirm where she saw this thing from. And she's saying that it was just in and around something, or her clothes or something like that. But I wanted to give fair balance to that. I don't want everyone freaking out, because to date, we have not confirmed with actual physical evidence that these Hydra are in our bodies or our blood yet. Because the show that we did the other day, that's what I was led to believe at first, but that is not the case. So I don't want everyone freaking out. And I want to be honest with you, because I could easily just let that video stand and not say the truth just for clicks and views. But I want to make sure that we do right by this and do right by God, because we're not on here to lie for clicks and views. We're on here to provide the truth. Now, if any of you have any of those microscopes, a binocular microscope, and you can look inside maybe some specimens of your own bodily fluids or blood, and you see something like that, send it to me. But to date, no one's sent it to me yet. And even the sister that sent me the images has not confirmed yet that it's in the bodily fluids. We got to be careful, because the person that originally came out with that is stuck in the right-left paradigm, isn't she? I'm not going to say her name, but the problem that I have with the source of this woman, someone just typed it into the chat here, is that she's still the right-left paradigm, and she still backs the whole letter that shall not be named and thump. Well, how can you back the very president who made the smack scene that you're claiming has this Hydra in it? How can you still back that person and believe that they're real and true? You can't. So there's a contradiction there, isn't there? So this is why I had to be very careful with this, but I saw the programming coming through in these films. And so that's why we started covering it. And then the sister came forward and said to me that she had found these things in her body, but then later we found out that it wasn't in her body. So I'm still on the fence with it. I'm still on the fence with it. Until we see proof. Until we see proof. And send me the proof. And I'm going to I'll put together an entire show with slides from your bodily fluids showing that this thing is in there. Not outside of you, inside. And then we can confirm what the doctor said. But until we do that, I don't want to alarm people or scare people. You guys, it's a huge job to do this channel, okay? Because people send me hundreds of pieces of information every single day that I have to parse through and figure out what's real and what's not, right? And understand that there is an element of our own government that has thousands of people going out there seeding disinformation to make us look crazy, aren't they? So we can't just start talking about this stuff and making it as if it's true and real until we have some kind of proof. And this is why I hold off on a lot of subject matter on this channel that all the other channels are talking about. I'll hold off on it until I know. Until, the Holy Spirit has placed upon me that this is true and shown me evidence that it's true. So I just wanted to let you know the update on that. We'll be back on here tomorrow with Between the Headlines. And I've got a lot of headlines pulled up already. We've got vets. Our own vets still didn't get the memo. Still didn't get the message. That are on planes right now going to Ukraine to help those people fight. Fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. I can't believe a single person would go over there right now with all of the lies that we've exposed, the short memories of the people in the military, and how they were just forced out of the military for not playing ball. it just makes me sad. It makes me so sad. So we're going to cover that and many other stories and headlines here. I'll put links to all of this of today's show in the pinned comment. You guys have any other things you want to talk about today? Can't get fooled again, right, Mike? All right. All right. I think we're back. Unbelievable. The stream got just like cut off or something. That was weird. All right. Well, I think we'll end the show now. Sorry for the technical difficulty there. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Much love. Take care and be safe.